Meine Fleur, meine Fleur. Kanga kukhitshwa igazi kuzamila. Kanga kukhitshwa igazi kuzamila. Hey mayine, hey mayine vula, hey mayine, hey mayine vula, hey mayine, hey mayine vula, hey mayine, hey mayine. How do I warm up my soul? How do I warm up my soul? How do I warm up the soul? How do I warm up the soul? Meine Fleur, hey meine Fleur, kanga kukhitshwa igazi kuzamila, kanga kukhitshwa igazi kuzamila. Hey, meine Fleur, hey, meine, hey, meine Fleur, hey, meine, hey, meine Fleur, hey, meine, hey,
beautiful piece by 2007 Prince Claus Laureate Faustin Linyekula, who's here back with us exactly 10 years since his awards. But this time accompanied by Hlengiwe Lushaba. We will see another performance by Faustin at the end of the ceremony. Your Majesties, Your Highnesses, Excellencies, dear friends, welcome to the 2017 Prince Claus Awards. Each year, the award ceremony feels like the culmination of the year's work at the Prince Claus Fund. And during the year, there's of course more at the fund that we do than finding laureates. We have projects, we have collaborations, exchanges. But the excitement of honoring new laureates each and every year is a public recognition that there are creative people doing exceptional, positive things, often in very difficult circumstances. This is the moment in which the Prince Claus Fund draws public recognition to the essential importance of culture in each and every context. It hardly needs saying that each society has its own cultural context, and yet we tend to forget it. This year's awards ceremony, for instance, comes at a special time here in the Netherlands. Today, many of you may know, is Sinterklaas. It's his birthday, or Saint Nicholas, the patron saint of children. It's a wonderful family tradition that I myself also celebrate with my kids, and that involve a lot of creative activities, writing poems, making surprises, giving gifts for family and friends. But it's a Dutch tradition that is now fraught with controversy. And without going into great detail, the controversy has pushed many people to emotional extremes. And a lot of the normally pacific, tolerant Dutch can be found in two angry and intractable camps, all over the issue of St. Nicholas's traditional helper, the Piet, an impish character who may be black or may just be dirty from the chimney, but is definitely a stereotype that is hurtful to some. And the controversy here illustrates a couple of points: how deeply important culture is to people and the way they see themselves, how obstinate the barriers to an inclusive society can be, and therefore how very important it is to listen to each other with respect, and how necessary it is to find solutions that address the emotions that are at the bottom of such emotional stalemates. Many people here are working on a solution that both sides can accept, and looked at in a broader scale, our difficulties in the Netherlands are small compared to the very volatile, difficult conflicts that exist in other countries. Still, this illustrates the importance of culture and traditions, and how, for all people, culture is our mirror. As Prince Claus knew, there are fantastic creative people in all societies whose work brings people together. The Prince Claus Fund's mandate is to honor those people and support their efforts. We believe that supporting cultural initiatives that help people understand each other is more important than ever, and the 2017 Prince Claus Laureates will show us that today. This year, unlike other years, the awards committee has chosen to present the Principal Award jointly. We honor two cultural practitioners from two opposite sides of the globe. Using different means and in very different contexts, they engage people and reach a very large audience. And you'll be learning more about them and about our fantastic 5 other Prince Claus laureates this afternoon. But without further ado, I'd like to ask Henk Proper, the chair of the Prince Claus Fund Board, to come for his welcome speech. Henk.
Thank you, Jumana. Your Majesties, Your Royal Highnesses, Excellencies, dear laureates and friends of the Prince Claus Fund. As every year, it is my pleasure to welcome you all here, once again, in the Royal Palace for this festive moment. This is the 5th time now that I'm standing here to express a word of welcome to you. And when I think of everything that has happened in these 5 years, it almost makes me dizzy. It's not only the geopolitical situation that has changed dramatically, it's also the way we perceive it. It's under the bombardment of information that we try to uphold and conceive a clear idea of what's happening around us, but sometimes I think we should wonder whether we are really able to do that. Not long ago, people were discussing the possibility of producing, for instance as a journalist, an objective perspective on news. And at least many journalists were aiming at that. Now, almost every piece of information is seen as untrustworthy, received as partisan, belonging to the one or to the other party. In the history of writing and literature, a wide range of authors stated that reality is in many ways more dangerous, more inconceivable than any piece of fiction, than the work of our imagination. I would say that was in the good old days, when people believed that there was a clear frontier between fiction and reality. Fiction, in the end, being far more secure than a dangerous world outside. Now, fiction and reality are totally intertwined. They are part of the same set of multiple stories that are not really willing to inform us, not willing to give us the opportunity to search for a meaning that goes beyond what we already know, or finding our path to the other who is in the end not so different from us. It is in that turmoil that also the Prince Claus Fund is trying to find its way, strongly believing as ever in the freedom of speech and the need to protect it. When the years go by, we sometimes tend to forget the original inspiration of the Prince Claus Fund, that in the mind of Prince Claus, culture and development were strongly connected. It may be that his idea of development has changed a little. Let's be honest, most people tend to think that it is other people that should develop themselves, that should create communities, that should change the course of their society. More and more we feel that there is everywhere a need to develop ourselves, to use the freedom of speech not only to denounce, to blow up differences, to install a minefield in between borderlines, but to find words to overcome differences, creating a bigger picture in which we can feel common ground. We live in a time of loose fingers. People produce opinions, not ideas. They would rather attack or defend than connect. It is art and culture that are, in my opinion, still the best medicine against the overkill of one-sided, more and more polemical information. It is art that shows that things are not simple, one-dimensional, but complex. Art shows that we can go beyond the idea of being partisan of this or that. It shows instead an overall idea of reality and the diversity of forms, the perspectives that people can have. In art, we find ideas, messages, references that bring people beyond the simplicity of right and wrong from a certain but blurred perspective. That is why we celebrate today this year's award winners, all of them working day by day on this greater perspective, sometimes under difficult circumstances, on front lines we cannot even imagine. Being on a front line is not a position to be envious about. although it seems thrilling or even fashionable. From far, it's sometimes easy to demand engagement, or what we call positive action. But what do we do in our own environment? Do we stand up for people we need to defend even in a relatively safe situation? I often hear that the word courage is linked to the philosophy of the Prince Claus Fund. To be very clear about this, I don't think courage is the right word for our mission. On the other hand, it is true that the fund stands for those that choose to create on the front line. But for many of them, it is not so much a matter of courage, more a matter of the need to respond creatively to things that are happening, with the idea of informing, connecting people. Maybe we can call this civil courage. It is that we like to honor today, and it is my great pleasure to see all our laureates gathered here and to be able to show to you all the inspirational force of their work. I will end this short introduction with a special word of thanks to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs for its faith in our work. And I would also like to thank the Postcode Lottery for its support and all our sponsors, the luxury hotels of Amsterdam, the torchbearers, and network partners for their engagement. Let me finish by thanking our staff for all the good work you do every day. Last year I said we are living in interesting times. I don't think that will change quickly. It seems the need for our work is only growing. I wish you all a splendid afternoon.
The extraordinary position of the Prince Claus Fund is the focus on culture as a basic need, and the fact that it focuses on the discovery of people in remote corners of the world that inspire us, people that possess such extraordinary qualities and insights. That is very enriching of our lives here in the West.
I think the Prince Claus Award is quite unique in the world. You hardly find awards that have such a cross-disciplinary target and that focus on the impact it has on culture and development. We are in such a troubled times globally that initiatives like this become extremely important.
We are all facing precarious times, and the question becomes, what do we support as a way of life that brings people together? And the Prince Claus Award is one of the most well-recognized platforms for doing this.
It's important for a lot of these artists who get this recognition from Prince Claus Award to have this as a stage to continue their social activism, to continue exploring the themes that they're focusing on, the important themes within our society, not just culturally, but socially and politically.
It's recognized very much as an award that really activates a powerful network around the world. It's a wonderful way of feeling we are not alone. In a time of crisis, we really are not alone.
How to remember what remains and what gets submerged.
Amar Kanwar is a well-known artist who is exhibited in many international festivals and exhibitions. He works with minorities, farmers, women, and looking at parts of society that don't have a voice and giving them this kind of voice through art and the medium of film.
Looking back at several films over several years, I think I have perhaps been responding to violence in many different ways. Initially, it was about specific incidents of violence that were taking place around me, maybe even trying to find a kind of method of response to violence. And I think over the years, more and more questions emerged. Quite often, a question would lead to a film.
One of his major works, The Sovereign Forest, which was exhibited in Documenta and in many other international festivals, really looks at land rights and the protests of farmers in the east coast of India and brings to the forefront the voices of these farmers and how they're losing the rights of their lands.
He has a special way to deal with video. He deals with many layers of language. He balances in a very good way the poetical language with the strong political subject.
You're within an atmosphere that really brings you almost to a point of being immersed in the situation, being able to feel, not only hear the voices of the people, but really to feel their suffering and their pain.
Sometimes even the act of making is an act of healing. Sometimes sharing is an act of comprehension, or just the experience of being together meant that we were able to deal with this or understand this much better.
Simplemente que en la naturaleza los géneros son infinitos. Hay toda clase de expresiones de género y hay toda clase de combinaciones de sexualidad.
Brigitte Baptiste is the director of the Humboldt Institute for Biodiversity in Colombia. She's an extraordinary person in that she manages to reach a large audience with this topic.
Her entire life is dedicated to exploring alternative narratives, to the ways in which ecology has been constructed, what power interests it serves, and unpacking those and creating alternative narratives, which she calls queering of ecology.
She has managed to show in her whole career, in her whole life, in her whole body, the possibilities of choices, of designing who you are. And that is a very powerful message. And she's doing this now as a scientist, which in certain parts of the world, like where I come from, Latin America, you don't hear this kind of freshness on such important and heavy issues.
De manera que hay toda una visión ecológica y evolutiva de la biodiversidad que me tranquiliza sobremanera y que creo que a todos debería tranquilizarnos porque precisamente el mundo está hecho para diferir, para ser distintos y para encontrarnos en ese mar de oportunidades.
She is also a very influential voice in the public debate about what's going to happen with the regions in the forest that are soon to be given up by FARC. And for the sake of biodiversity, she wants to rescue these regions.
She confronts gender biases on an ongoing basis in her daily, both private, I presume, and public work. That's also very inspirational that somebody can have such a holistic approach, both with their own life and with their research work.
Burkina Faso is one of the poorest countries in the world. But what does it look like to grow up in a place like that?
Francis Kéré is, I think, an exciting architect from Burkina Faso. The village raised funds for him to go and study abroad, which is how he got to Germany. But he made a decision after completing his studies to go back to Burkina, and he has made it his mission to be a responsive architect. His purpose is to create infrastructure for his people. So, for example, a project like the Opera Village, which is built as a response to the need for water and the need for addressing the flooding situation that is occurring in this land. The initial funders were wanting one thing, but the response to the village's needs and requirements were another. And so as an architect, he almost becomes an activist and turns around the mission. And because the locals are building it themselves, he thinks that they feel more responsible for the structures.
Interaction is my work is like you need ear to breathe. How the community live together is always to be part of processes which touch housing, which touch the daily life. People come together and do things together.
He's a role model for many African architects, and he's even doing projects in Europe and in other places in the world. So I cannot imagine somebody more influential these days as Francis Kéré. We hope that with this award he kind of gets an extra presence beyond the architectural world, because he's very good for showing another side of what architects are or should be.
I do the architecture is to try to use my profession to serve human experience.
بس رجع ما يعجبني شكل سعد برقعة المجنونات هذيين يعجبني من فوق الشمال الهواء.
This girl took me right back to my youth, and I decided to follow her around.
Khadija Al-Salami is one of the first female filmmakers in Yemen. A very extraordinary person, courageous as well. Even today in the war-torn region of Yemen, she manages to film. Her work is fresh. In a very uncomplicated documentary style, she follows a young girl that isn't afraid at all for the Islamists. And she has an ear and an eye for that young girl that is captivating and really funny, even though it's very serious stuff that we are looking at.
What's special about Khadija Al-Salami is that she uses her own experiences as a child bride who was forced into marriage at the age of 11.
She managed to escape, very rare, and that has motivated her work as a filmmaker.
Her latest film won a lot of outstanding awards in international film festivals and was screened all over the world, including in the Middle East. And I think it's really brought to issue how it's very difficult for women to have the freedom to live their life and be educated. And for that reason, Khadija Al-Salami has also set up a foundation where she supports 500 girls to go to school and really encourages them to speak up for their rights. She's a role model and inspiration not just to women in Yemen, but also to filmmakers and young people in the young generation who want to see a change within Yemeni society and in the Middle East.
دونك حبينا نحلموا بلادنا، دونك حبينا نحلموا تونس، وتونس الافضل تكون شنو؟ تونس الافضل اللي نحن تكون كلها فيها في كل شارع، على كل رصيف يكون لحظة فنية.
L'Art Rue is a collective created in 2006 in Tunisia by a brother and sister duo, Sufyan and Selma Wisi. What they've chosen to do is really create this collective platform for artists and the community to engage within the city of Tunis. The way they refer to it is a citizens' march.
They make use of a lot of public settings, whether it's libraries, coffee shops, chapels, and they test out how performance really works vis-a-vis the public. It's on the edge, it's sharp, and it's very inspirational for the audiences that are yet to come to this field.
They're really engaged with not only the younger generation, but the surrounding population. And what they're trying to do with one of their projects, for example, with Dream City, is really bring in together artists, practitioners, dancers, performers from Tunis with the rest of the Middle East and Africa.
In a part of Africa that's not very comfortable with openness around questions like this, I find it a very courageous move to represent work in the public sphere. To have work that plays out in public space can be a very dangerous affair because it confronts questions of power and abuse of power, questions of corruption, questions of gender parity, and I think the work that they do is very important on that score.
May I ask His Royal Highness Prince Constantijn to come to the stage to present the Prince Claus Awards, please. Khadija Al-Salami for using film to confront discrimination against women and giving women and girls in Yemen the chance to speak for themselves. Selma and Sofiane Ouissi for L'Art Rue for creatively reclaiming public places as spaces for free expression where people can dance, act, reflect, and have fun. Brigitte Baptiste for increasing people's understanding that diversity is an essential fact of life, both in culture and in nature. Amar Kanwar for telling stories through multiple art forms that speak to people about the nature of injustice. Diébédo Francis Kéré for his interactive ways to design and construct buildings that are beautiful, practical, and give pride to people who use them.
We hear a lot about the crisis of trust and the erosion of authority. Universal doubts seem to have replaced universal truths. Anyone's reality is as good as one's others. And when all is fake, then all is true. Or is it? If the universality of human rights is challenged, if establishing local democracy, liberal democracy, and open societies is no longer an objective, when the global multilateral governance structures and organizations are waning, then what holds us together? Where do we find common ground for collaboration and cohabitation? What brings us here today? In all the talk of doom and gloom, fake news and media hypes, polarization and populism, threats to our judiciary or the representative democracy, we sometimes forget that there actually are values that we all seem to relate to. Things like uncompromising loyalty, love, endurance, resilience, suffering, generosity, compassion. For example, migration suddenly became debatable at the recent EU-Africa summit when images emerged of people being auctioned off like slaves in Libya. When numbers become faces, where statistics turn into stories, we ourselves are forced to feel, to listen, to see, and think again. In acknowledging this humanity, we are drawn together. And you are among amazing people tonight, though you may not even know it. This audience is a treasure trove of passionate people with the most extraordinary experiences. Like the Prince Claus Fund partner, Syrian exile Samer Al-Qadri of Pages Bookstore Cafe in Istanbul, who couldn't return to work or to his family in Turkey after attending the awards last year. And instead of falling into despair, he started a Pages bookstore here in Amsterdam, quickly establishing a lively cultural meeting point, driven by his resilience, generosity, and true and optimistic belief in the goodness of man. Or this year's laureate, Khadija Al-Salami from Yemen, who we saw just now, who was abused as a child, married off at the age of 11, disowned and cast out by her family when she left her husband, but she fought back against social stigma and family rejection. She pursued an education, sustained herself, and became an award-winning film director. She's a role model of young Yemeni women, encouraging them to develop their talents. She asks no pity, but commands our respect for all she has achieved and the impact she's making. Or Francis Kéré, who is now an award-winning director from Gando in Burkina Faso, where there was no school until he decided to build one. He grabbed the opportunities to develop his talents in Ouagadougou and Berlin, and now helps his people to develop theirs. All of the laureates and many people here in this room that we are honoring today have their own impressive stories of working against the odds and the obstacles, using cultural tools to bring positive change to their societies. The point I try to make is that there's a deeper humanity in these stories, reflecting a certain universality, something we can all relate to. Good people developing their talents, that they stand up for what they believe in, who will not rest till they achieve their goals and do good. We feel their suffering, we're inspired by their brilliance, and no cynicism is strong enough to deny us that. Therefore, we need to take time, more time, to sit down and listen, to eat and drink together and share cultures. Because only with tangible contact and deep dialogue will we start to understand and inspire each other. Only then new forms of trust can build among us. This is truly a time where anyone can make a global impact. And that is why the Prince Claus Fund connects the big issues with the stories and endeavors of people, celebrating real people with their failings, their struggles, their breakthrough successes, making a difference worldwide. And what bigger challenge to address than climate change, the environment and the struggle for survival. The topic is so big and diverse that the jury decided to award not one, but 2 main prizes. Vincent Carelli and Ma Jun are 2 cultural practitioners working in different continents with different approaches on different aspects of the same major problem, both addressing aspects of environmental degradation and achieving incredible impact. One by raising awareness of the scope of the damage to the environment, and the other by empowering local people who suffer the consequences to raise their voices and sound the alarm to the broader public. Vincent and Jun are honored today to show that local heroes keep battling on despite global challenges to the Paris Climate Accord. This award is a plea from the community of good people worldwide who are working to save the planet to keep on fighting. It's an honor to welcome you here in our midst. It's a privilege to award you and your work with the Principal Prince Claus Fund Award.
Environmental challenge is one of the most severe challenges to our country, and we must take action to control the pollution problem. The real barrier is a mechanism which at this moment still reward those who cut corners on environmental protection. To break that, I trust that we need extensive public participation. The challenge is how. The Blue Map app means to serve not just as a way for people, for anyone to access the information anytime, but more importantly, also to help create a channel. More than 750 major coal power plants, the steel manufacturer, the cement factory, and chemical and petrochemical plants openly address their violation problems. Many of them are state-owned enterprises, and they used to be not sensitive to public intervention at all.
就是这边呢，还有北京来自于南水北调的这些水，那么，但是呢，经过这个城市之后，那么这些很多都是这个从城市排出的这些水。
前方500米有3岔路，请走最左侧岔路，往建国路京通快速方向。150米处有监控和公交专用道拍照。
这个味儿是还行，还是有点臭，还是太臭了？
太臭了，
太臭了，那咱们就选。
要不下雨还不太明显，尤其下大雨，
那就更臭了哈。
对，反正那是谢谢你，
咱们就多观察着，好吧？啊，好好好。
For a long time in China, China has been a society of top-down management for thousands of years, and transparency and participation, they're all new ideas, new concepts.
Some of the industrial wastewater also used to come into this. But in recent years, Beijing have been shutting down those dirty industries. 往回这就应该算是很高的了哈。对对对。现在是12点几，所以溶解氧这个项目上还是不错的。
We're also trying to help, find a way to tackle not just the local pollution problem, but also global climate change. And because, the sources of these two problems are very much the same. Burning half of the world's coal, that's the biggest source of our local air pollution problem. But also, that's the reason to make China the largest air, greenhouse gas emitter in the world. Powerful stakeholders can be involved, like those brands who source from their suppliers, and those financial institutions who give them the funding. I hope this award could really not just inspire me and our organization, but also inspire more people from all walks of life to take their own action, to make their own contribution. It will be good for China. I trust it will be good for the world.
Prince Claus Award is about finding people, institutions that are having a big impact in culture. So if you can imagine the impact it will take to turn China into a sustainable country.
Instead of choosing methods of confrontation or antagonism, his activism has really been one that has been of transformative value.
There's many ways to be an environmentalist. So he proves that it's not just being an activist, but also just smartly revealing things. You can make a huge impact.
He has managed through these apps to mend the ways of about 1,400 factories, and not the smallest ones. Some of them are the most polluting ones, like the textile factories and the supply chains for instance, Apple.
He is extremely inspirational in the way he was able to manage many alliances between private and public sector, government, embassies, but the most importantly also in the ways he's been able to engage citizens.
Through it all, you see this sense of, I think, his love for his countrymen.
Vincent Carelli is an amazing anthropologist who uses film, documentary filmmaking and archiving to really put up a mirror to Brazil and the factors, the political, economic factors that have brought present Brazil into a present reality. And what Vincent Carelli has done very successfully for many years is to create films that are, I find, incredibly elegant, painful in how they reveal a hidden history of violence, but also amazingly successful at making that accessible to most Brazilians in a way that allows them to interrogate their history and part of how they participate in that continuance in the present.
Pistolero ya cojuca a vingança do fazendeiro rei de Bericaiado. Então, ojuca que seria o Reginaldo. Coaca com Xeritei. Coa Xeritei. Coa era Wagner na Fleita do Santo Xeritei. Amar Reginaldo Cário de Souza. A coaca com Xeriwis. Primeiro ojuca com Ricai. Primeiro ojuca com Ricai. Um polícia de carro não gasta para ir carro de japi repede. Pessoal de acidente eu já posso fazendeiro onde eu ia, velho. Então você com anga no piade. Com a xarei mano já tem pá, então você com anga, com a xaro já tem. Com anga tudo que ore guerreiro, que peça mocon che guerreiro coa, amor che guerreiro, qual che guerreiro onde eu ia coa. Pode ir pro rio a rece. Coa.
Eu tive um privilégio na vida de conhecer os índios aos 16 anos. Isso realmente implodiu a minha bolha, abriu minha cabeça, meus horizontes. Acho que ganhei um entendimento do que é a história da humanidade, vamos dizer assim. Eu acho que foi uma coisa radical, fundamental na minha vida e acabou que a minha vida toda eu dediquei a isso. Depois de ter trabalhado em muitas coisas, demarcação de terra, enciclopédia, eu resolvi experimentar a questão da imagem, a apropriação da imagem pelos próprios índios e a recepção deles foi incrível. Porque o que estava batendo forte é a questão da memória, que estava se perdendo, da memória do seu patrimônio cultural, né? Então, a possibilidade de gerar a sua própria imagem despertou principalmente os mais velhos, né, sobre a necessidade de registros contemporâneos de coisas que estavam sendo esquecidas. Desde os primeiros oficinas, não é, saíram filmes surpreendentes, né, revelando um novo olhar para romper o fosso de invisibilidade em que eles estão metidos e ter um canal de comunicação através da arte, do cinema, né, com a sociedade nacional. O Brasil começou a descobrir uma nova realidade, um novo olhar e ter a possibilidade de ter novo olhar sobre os índios também.
For the last 30 years, taught them how to use film and video to not just record their own real life, but also to fictionalize myth, rituals, their own culture, give themselves a voice. They have made about 100 videos that have been seen all over Brazil and all over the world. He also, himself, is a great filmmaker.
May I please ask Prince Constantijn once again to the stage for the Principal Prince Claus Awards. Vincent Carelli, for giving indigenous people in Brazil the voice and means to tell their own stories. Ma Jun, for emphasizing the responsibility for the environment must be shared between government, corporations, and the citizens.
Your Majesties, Your Royal Highnesses, Excellencies, distinguished guests, I want to tell you how honored I feel for receiving this prestigious award. I want to thank the people that have nominated me, the jury for choosing myself, and congratulate my colleagues, laureates present here. We all have been facing big challenges in our own countries with creativity and engagement. I want also to congratulate the Prince Claus Fund for focusing on culture and development, because it's through cultural intervention that we build bridges to overcome racial, gender, religious, and cultural intolerances. In the case of minorities, I've always thought that it's better to invest in cultural seduction than political confrontation. I feel happy for this recognition, and at the same time I feel sad to see the unelected president of my country retiring our civil rights, selling out our natural resources, destroying our industry and taking Indians' land. I hope this award will give me more strength to stand up and with millions of Brazilians restore democracy and rebuild the country. Thank you.
Your Majesties, Your Royal Highnesses, Excellencies, distinguished guests, I'm truly honored and humbled to receive the Prince Claus Award. During my past 20 years of environmental journey, I was over and over again struck by the damage to nature and by the stories of those who suffered from it, pushing me to think hard about solutions. I remember years ago, beside the third largest freshwater lake in China, I saw a whole group of fishermen in small fishing boats using long ladles to scoop out the blue algae bloom, which looks like a green paint and smells with an offensive smell. One fisherman told me that when I was young, on a hot day like this, I used to dive in the lake and take a bath, with all the small fish swimming around me. Now, he said, that the fish are gone, and we're paid to scoop out the algae. I need to stay away from the splash of the lake water because it could cause my skin to itch. Pointing to those factories along the shoreline, he said that the lake will not be clean until those chemical factories stop dumping. Years of research make me understand how tough it is to stop those dumping. With weak enforcement, with the cost of violations way too low, those who cut corners actually become more competitive in the market. I came to realize that we must make our environmental management transparent to make sure that the voices of different stakeholders, especially those who suffer from it, could be heard and be considered. My own efforts to engage start with a book, then extend it to a website and now to mobile internet. The Blue Map app we developed enables our users to file micro-reports against those powerful polluting factories based on online monitoring. And the violation records we compiled also have been widely used by multinationals and local brands to motivate thousands of their suppliers to change behavior. But in comparison with these daunting local environmental challenges and global climate change, our efforts to clean up are still only a drop in the bucket. But I see signs of hope to scale up. With rising public awareness, with the vast expansion of environmental transparency in China, with growing capacity of NGOs and local foundations, with development of IT technology, huge potential have been developed, have been created for us to bring the global production, investment, and sourcing practice. Ladies and gentlemen, I thank you again for your attention and support to our humble work. And I hope to find a chance to work with you, to motivate more to join the efforts so that we can preserve the beauty of our blue planet. Thank you.
Adidio, adidio, yo, adidio, yo, adidi tumbu ekima, obobiba isabuni, obobiba imalasi, ojibi ponda diambe ho, odiambe kpala, odiambe budu, adidio tumbu. Adidio, yo, adidi tumbu ekima, obobiba isabuni, obobiba imalasi, ojibi ponda diambe ho, odiambe kpala, odiambe budu, adidio tumbu. Yes, it's me again. My name is Kabako. I am Kabako. Again Kabako. Once Kabako, forever Kabako. Kabako is my name. I am a storyteller. I've been taking my stories along the pathways of contemporary dance for many, many years. 10 years ago, I stopped here on the stage of the Prince Claus Awards. I must confess that coming back 10 years later, I feel rather tired. I'm tired of telling stories of ruins, stories of blood, stories of mud. Because, I come from a country known as the Democratic Republic of Congo. That is the former Republic of Zaire. That is the former Belgian Congo. That is the former private property of King Leopold II of Belgium. Well, if you come from that part of the world and you want to tell those stories, what do you find other than stories of ruins, stories of mud, stories of blood? But no, I don't want to bother you with those stories this afternoon. I didn't come this afternoon to tell you stories of suffering niggers, dying niggers. Enough of that. Maybe if I'm here today, it's simply to celebrate the fact that to continue doing what I'm doing, I had to create a circle of awakened dreamers. And some of them are here with me today. Hlengiwe. Jeannot. Easy. Boise. Moya. Neo. Ntone. Kabako. Chimurenga. Jojo. Ibo. Mwiti. Moka. Shango. Jojo. Easy. Jojo. moto. Deva. Dola kisangan boneka. Kwato hatu.
Come on, boys, my inner blood. Hey, my inner blood. Come on, boys, my inner blood.
Easy. Hlengiwe. Jeannot. Easy. Boise. Neo. Tony. Jojo. Kabako. Dino. Moiti. Banatama. Salumu. Lupembe. Yanga. Alua. Kabako. Akande. Cindy. Makbe. Kasanga Oluo. Abito. Ombirinyama abito. Cindy wa Macbeth. Akande. Kasanga Oluo. Akande.
Thank you so much, Faustin, Hlengiwe, Jeannot, and Izzy for this. In closing, a few announcements and thank yous. Actually, many thank yous. This year, I'm very, very, very excited to extend special thanks to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and the former Development Minister, Lilian Ploumen, for a 4-year grant to initiate a new program. It's called The Next Generation, and it's aimed at and driven by youth. The approach draws on all of our previous experiences, and the focus is on equality, inclusiveness, and activities that offer alternative narratives to young women and men. We're expanding our teams, and we're making a really good start. You'll hear much more about it as the program gets rolling, The Next Generation. Excuse me. To Jumana, sorry I can't be there today. A month in the Netherlands, I must get away. All those presents delivered, I now need a rest, so please read this poem and give it your best. Oh my God, it's Saint Nicholas. He's writing a poem just for the Prince Claus Fund today. Okay, I'll try my best, here goes. This closing note gives thanks from Saint Nicolaus, whose favorite fund is that of the late Prince Claus. For 20 years of great promotion of artists, creatives across the wide oceans. Thanks to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, your financial support is an answer to prayers. Along with the Dutch postcode lottery, who believes in culture's positivity. Corporate sponsors near and far, and thanks to torchbearers, you know who you are. Collaborating partners, the teamwork is great. KLM ensures that awards guests aren't late, most of the time in any case. Amsterdam luxury hotels are their home. What style! Also, thanks Irma Boom, your design work has given the fund a great brand that reflects the fine quality of art in each land. And that's supported by grants, exchanges, awards, protecting heritage. It's all helping towards more inclusive society. That's the Prince Claus Fund's aim. That's why it's my favorite. I say it again. Sinterklaas is saying all of the thanks at my place. It's amazing. Thanks to the committee that must make all the choices, the workers that have to research all the voices, Nominators, advisors, it's quite a hard task, and thanks to the board, phenomenal at last. Awards preparations are done by a team with Fariba Drakshani, no detail unseen. And thanks to the palace, the warm royal sphere means the guests come back gladly year after year. On my birthday, no better a celebration than the Prince Claus Awards. What a great inspiration. And all the fund's partners for whom culture's a passion, activities that unite, and love put into action. Even the bags that you'll be getting when you leave, made by Syrian exiles, those ladies don't grieve. They make something positive. The fund gives support for a Greek exile saint in Spain. That says a lot. And finally, thanks to all you folks who are listening. I imagine your smiles and your eyes bright and glistening. The fund's larger family, folks with a heart, united through culture. Thanks for your part. Thank you. Well, thank you, Center Class, for not forgetting us and all the people who help us. You just forgot one thing, is to say thank you to the musicians who are here with us, Joris Cohen and Ho Belasai, who accompany us throughout the whole ceremony with the hang instrument. Two more points. If you'd like to hear more from the 2017 laureates, tomorrow night they will be telling their stories of their work and discussing the issues that they face at the Compagnie Theater in an event which I think is appropriately called Louder Than Words, Global Leaders on the Frontline of Culture. Tell your friends who weren't with us today that they can come and hear the laureates. Final word, please allow the royal family, the laureates, and the press to exit first. Then, if you would please move to the back of the hall for a few minutes, we will remove the chairs so that the reception can start. Thank you all for being here tonight, for sharing this afternoon with us. We hope that Vincent Carelli, Ma Jun, and the rest of the 2017 Prince Claus laureates have broadened your world. They sure have broadened mine. Thank you so much.